Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's me, Megan, and I'm here for a library prediction haul review. The first 5 library books of 2023. I have to say, oh, there's a bubble in my throat. I have to say, these ones surprised me and I really enjoyed a lot of my library books. Not to say that I haven't enjoyed my library books, but it just felt really nice to have like a lot of 4-star reads to go into the year. I'm still waiting for a 5-star read, haven't read one yet, but who knows, maybe sometime soon. So let me jump right into it. So the first book I read, I hate when they get stuck to each other. The first book I read was Royal Bastards by Andrew Schwartz. That's this one. So this is the first in a trilogy, in this Royal Bastards trilogy. And this really wowed me. I rated it 4 stars, and I just really liked the way that it made me feel. Like, I was, like, totally immersed in this fantasy world. I mean, we're introduced to these characters, and it was just a really fun read. I mean, the world building wasn't the greatest, but I'm expecting that to get better as we progress through the trilogy. And like the magic that they use is really interesting, and I'm like looking to hopefully get more of that later on. And I mean, the characters were good. They were sort of developed, and they were sort of like deep and everything. And I'm hoping that we're gonna get a little bit more from them come the next books. I have really high expectations for the next book. Let's just say that. And I mean, the premise is that what's the main character's name again? I read it so long ago. Tilla. Her name is Tilla, and she's basically a bastard, and she likes slumming it with her half brother Jax, but she actually really likes when she's involved with her father and being part of the royal family. Like, she actually really likes that. And so basically, she has, I keep saying so, she is sitting with at the bastards table when the princess arrives, and the princess is like, oh, I actually want to sit with the bastards, like, I don't want to sit with the royals. And Tilla's like, what's going on? And like, the princess wants them to show them the ropes and be like, I want to know what it's like to be in your shoes, basically. And they hang out after dinner, and then they end up witnessing a murder that they weren't supposed to witness. And now the princess's life is in danger, and they have to flee, and they have to warn the king before like, as to what's happening, but they have to stay alive in order to do that. So it was actually really cool, and I really liked this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of that trilogy. The next book I read was 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by Zendaya Menon. So I predicted that I would rate this 4 stars. I did end up rating it 4 stars. I was gonna rate it 3 stars for a very long time, until about the 3rd act. I was like, I'm not really feeling the chemistry between Pinky and Samir. I was like, they really just hate each other. Like, we met them in There's Something About Sweetie, and I was like, okay, like, they hate each other. They're always yelling at each other. But I mean, I understood that, and I was like, okay, they're gonna have some sort of moment. And I mean, she tried to put them together, and at first I'm like, I don't like this. Like, it felt really forced, and I was like, I don't know. But then it really turned around, and like, they really started to realize that they actually liked each other more than they thought they did, and I was like, okay. And I mean, she also has a way of writing mother-daughter relationships in like the most pull at your heartstring, like, oh my goodness. It was intense. So I ended up rating this 4 stars. I mean, this also had fake dating. It had a fake dating trope because, like, the premise is Pinky's going away with her family for the summer, and when she gets accused again of burning, well, not again, but when she gets accused of burning down a barn because she's always seen as the delinquent child, she's like, no, I have a proper boyfriend that you're going to like, because Samir is complete opposite to her. He is obsessed with rules and schedules. Every little minute of his life is planned, and her life isn't like that. So she's like, his plans ended up falling through, so she's like, come be my pretend boyfriend, essentially. And he's like, oh, okay. And I mean, what's in it for him is that he wants to be a lawyer. He had an internship at a law firm that fell through. But guess what? Pinky's mom and her dad are lawyers. So they're like, oh, I can hook you up with an internship at the end of this. And I was like, okay, interesting. So I mean, this played out really cool, and yeah, she really pulled a sweep at the end. So I ended up rating it 4 stars. The next book I read was Map of the Heart by Susan Wiggs. The one that I said was like a mom read. And I mean, it really kind of was, because the main character is a mom to a teenage daughter. I mean, there are multiple kind of point of views in this. I rated it 3 stars because I just felt like there was a lot going on in this, and I feel like that was a good thing because it kind of kept things going. But I felt like everything was kind of conveniently placed, and it was just too perfect. And I was like, all right, okay. I was like, I mean, not to say that my stories have to be tragic or anything, but it just felt, you know, when you read something and you're like, it just felt too nicely sliced for it to feel real. And I was like, I can't deal with this, because like the main character, her husband died, and now she doesn't want to do anything. Like, she's too afraid to fly, she's too afraid to leave her little town, and her daughter wants to do all these things, but she's like, I'm not letting my daughter do anything, because then that means that she might die, and so she can't do anything. And so like there's like this rift between them because of that. And then something happens to her daughter, and then that's how, and like she's in the middle of doing a job for this guy, and as soon as we meet him on like page like 1 or 2, I was like, okay, we know he's the love interest. And yeah, lo and behold, he was the love interest. And like this story takes place in the US, and it takes place in France, because the main character's father is from France, and he's been sent this box of stuff from his old home, and like they actually don't know a lot about his past, and so when they're digging through it, they find all these things, and so that takes them back to going to France, to finding out about her history, and learning about how what he thought was his past and who he thought his father wasn't actually who his father was, and there's just a lot happening. So, I mean, if you're interested in historical fiction and cutesy, lovey-dovey stories, that could be for you. I don't think I did that justice. There's just so much that was happening that I'm like, it would take a whole 20-minute video that I don't feel like making. The next book on my list was The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. This is the pretty one with the pretty pages. So pretty. I mean, I would have rated this 5 stars, like just for the the prettiness alone, but I rated it 4 stars. So apparently this is part of her Grishaverse series. Like, there are short stories that take place in the world, but because I've been so out of the world for many years, that I'm like, I couldn't tell you that they were part of the world. But if you read them outside of knowing that, and you read them kind of like as standalones, they're still really good. They're still really well written. They're so descriptive that they're just so intriguing, and they're just so captivating to read. They're also kind of based on like fairy tales that we all know. So it's like you're not completely lost. I mean, I was never really lost. I was just following along and having a good time while reading it. So that's why I ended up just rating it 4 stars, because it was good. I enjoyed them, but I mean, the stories also weren't extremely memorable. Like there are 6 short stories, and I think I have like a memory of a few of them, so that's why I only rated this 4 stars. So that was this one. Very heavy. And then the last one I read was Waiting for the Punch by Marc Maron. That's this one. So this is I mean, it says Words to Live By from the What the Fuck or WTF podcast. So this is based on his podcast. It basically it's like a best of, essentially, but in book format, which I kind of liked, actually, because I've never listened to the podcast, and I mean, I've never watched Marc Maron. I've never seen him do his comedy shtick or anything like that. I know nothing about him, but like reading I mean, they weren't really interviews. It was basically just, he had like each chapter was a topic, and then he would basically pull from his podcast what people said about that topic. So there would be like topics about parenting or sexuality or like mortality, like success and failure, and he would pull from like the famous people that he's talked to in his career of the podcast, and he put it together in a book, which I thought was really cool and really clever. And I mean, like, it doesn't really make me want to go and listen to the podcast, but just reading like the best of was really, really interesting, and it was really like I don't want to say cool, but I'm like, there were a lot of like reaffirming things that were talked about in this that I thought, oh, okay, like, this is fun, this is cool, and, like, people get it. So I'm like, and the stories were just, some of them were really deep, like, when they talked about, like, drug use and loss and, like, death and everything, I was like, whoa, like, they go deep. So I rated this 4 stars because it was just really, really interesting to read. So that was this. And those were the last 4 library, or yeah, the last, no, 4, 5, last 5 library books that were on my list this week. The past couple weeks. I can't lift the last one, so you get 4. So that is all I have for you guys today. Until my next video, if you liked this one, give it a thumbs up, a like, a comment, a subscribe, do your thing, and I will see you all in my next video. So thanks and bye guys!